Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today's video we're actually going to talk about how we can upload our apps to the App Store using one command. So we're going to be using a tool called Fastlane, which basically allows us to automate a lot of our tasks. Now this does require a bit of terminal experience, but if you're someone who's new to using a terminal, it's fine, don't worry. I'll step you through it because I got you like that. And also as well, I'm going to talk about how to create an AppStoreConnect and an Apple developer account as well. So if you already have experience with those two things, then you can actually jump to the getting started chapter in this video. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. In the intro, if you actually already have an Apple ID and an Apple developer account, then you can actually skip this bit of the chapter and move on to AppStoreConnect if you don't have that set up already. If you have that set up already, then you can actually move on to the next chapter, which is getting started with Fastlane. But basically what we're going to do now is we're actually going to discuss Apple IDs and the Apple developer account. So basically, in order to access Apple developer, you actually need an Apple ID. An Apple ID is basically just a unique email that associates you with like all the various Apple products. So what you need to do is you need to go onto appleid.apple.com, and then you need to go and create your Apple ID, and then you basically just need to fill out this form and then sign up, and you should get an email confirming you've now got an Apple ID. So once you finish doing that, the next thing you need to do is you need to go into Apple developer, developer.apple.com, and then you need to actually sign in with the Apple ID, and you should see this screen here where it looks quite bare at the moment because you don't have the enrollment program. So what you then need to do is scroll down to the bottom, and then you'll see something here say join the Apple developer program. So click on that, and then when you finish clicking on that, you'll get all this information about all the cool stuff you can build and how Apple's the best. You can actually hit enroll. And then when you hit enroll, you actually get two options here. So the first option you get is signing up as an individual. Now, if you're someone who just wants to basically create apps for, your own leisure and just basically build stuff to put your work out there, or you're just an independent developer who just wants to just create some, cool stuff, then you can enroll as an individual. The alternative one you have is enrolling as a organization. Now, if you're a business or you want to set this up for a company, then you need to basically enroll as an organization. And what you need to do is you basically need to submit an additional form to basically prove to Apple that you're a legitimate business. So, they don't just want someone who's pretending to sell like potatoes or something. They need it to be a legit company. So once you finish doing that, you will then basically be allowed to continue with your enrollment and register as a business. But for the sakes of this, I'm actually not going to buy this because I've already got one, but I will basically just show you the next steps. So what you can do is you basically need to scroll down to the bottom where it says start your enrollment. Cool. And then what you'll do here is you'll basically get a form that you need to fill out with all your information. And if you just continue filling out this form, then you'll basically get the option to choose whether you want to be a business or an individual. Right. Cool. So now you've got your Apple developer, program set up and whatnot. We're now going to talk through, setting up an app on AppStoreConnect. And like I said in the previous chapter, if you already know how to do all this, then please skip to the next chapter about getting started with Fastlane. So you signed in, you've got all this. All right, boom, let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do in order to put our app onto the App Store is we need to basically create a unique identifier for our app. So this unique identifier is what's going to essentially link our app to the app on the App Store. So in Xcode, if you go into your Xcode project, in my Xcode project, I've actually got this bundle identifier here. So notice how I created this at the start of the project. So when you create an Xcode project, you have to define a bundle identifier. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create this bundle identifier in Apple Developer so we can link this to our app on the App Store. So let's go into Apple Developer and let's click on certificates, identifiers, and profiles. Cool. So once we've done that, let's click on identifiers, and then let's click on the plus. And you'll see you have all these options here for all the different identifiers that you can create. We want app ID, so apply to our app. So we're going to hit continue. We're going to choose app, not app clip. because we want to publish an app and not an app clip. I'm going to hit continue again. And then now what we're going to do is we're basically going to give our app ID a name and the explicit bundle identifier. But before we do that, I just want to show you all the capabilities. You see how Apple treats us, man. All the stuff you can just easily turn on and you get the capability for your app. So we're not actually going to focus on any of these for now, but in future videos we will do. But for now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically create a bundle identifier. So we're going to call this football chance. And it's worth noting as well for the bundle identifier, you can either have a wildcard or explicit. We're going to explicitly set our bundle identifier. So we don't want to have a matching bundle identifier. So for this, I'm just going to go into Xcode. I'm just going to copy this. And I'm just going to paste it in this text field here. And it's also worth noting that, you know, it's probably best if you actually do have an app ID or an app that you want to put onto the App Store that you do this instantly, because once this bundle identifier is gone, trust me, bro, it's gone, man. It's finito. So the quicker you do it, the better. So hit continue and then register that. And as you can see now in the list here, we actually do have our bundle identifier all set up. So the next thing that we need to do is we basically now need to create this app in AppStoreConnect. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go back to Apple Developer. Let's go back into our account. And then you should see an option here called AppStoreConnect. So if you just click on that, and you'll see an option here called Go to AppStoreConnect. If you cannot bother with seeing the screen all the time, then you could just tick the little checkbox at the bottom here. I keep forgetting to do it. I don't know why. Today's the day I'll do it. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to say Go to AppStoreConnect, and this will now take me to AppStoreConnect. And once we go into AppStoreConnect, you can see the layout here for AppStoreConnect. You've got all these different options now. Because I'm an admin and an account holder of this organization account, I can see literally everything to do with all the apps that I publish onto the App Store. But I'm not going to go through all these options. We're just going to go and create an app so we can just put an app onto the App Store. So I'm just going to go to My Apps. And then when I go into My Apps, I'm going to hit the little plus button here. And I'm going to create a new app, not a new app bundle. So an app bundle is basically a collection of apps that you can basically sell as a bundle. Think of it as like basically when you can get a bundle of DLC from a game. But we want a new app. And then for this new app, I'm basically going to choose iOS, because we're going to create an iOS app, not a Mac app or a TV app. And I'm just going to call this Football Chance. Oh, yep, Football Chance. And then the primary language for this is going to be English UK. And then the bundle identifier. So if you clock here, it actually tells you need to register a new bundle identifier. So like I said before, this is the bit where you link it between your app and AppStoreConnect. So we're going to choose Football Champs. As you can see, it's in the list now. Now the SKU is basically like a unique identifier. So let's say, for example, we had 1,000 apps. Each app needs to have its own unique SKU. Kind of like when you go into the shop, you know, each product has its own barcode. For this, I'm just going to say 001. And then I'm just going to say users who have access to this. Users who have access to this app can get full access, not limited access. So I'm going to hit create. Oh, it's already been used. It's probably my side project. So now we're going to say 02 and then hit create. Cool. Go into here and then cool. We now have our app here and ready to basically submit later on into the App Store. So what is Fastlane? So looking at the site, as you can see here, basically Fastlane is an automation tool that helps us do the tedious tasks really quickly. So what do I mean by automation if that's completely new to you? So with automation tasks, basically you can do things like, you know, creating provisioning profiles, generating screenshots, and you can basically let the computer do the work for you. So with Fastlane, there's loads of things that they offer, and they actually offer, you know, they're called actions. And they offer actions such as generating screenshots, uploading an app to the App Store like we're going to be doing today, and other things such as, you know, distributing apps to test flight, generating push certificates. There's a whole bunch of things. I'd highly recommend you just check out the website and basically see what is possible for you to do with this automation tool. It's really sick, man, I'm not gonna lie. So the thing we're gonna be focusing on though is the automation of sending a build to AppStoreConnect so we can submit our app. So what we need to do is we need to install Fastlane onto our machine. So let's do that now. So in order to do that, what you need to do is you just need to go to docs, and that will open up the documentation. As you can see on the left hand side, there's actually two setup guides. Now you can actually use Fastlane with Android, but for today, obviously we're just going to be using an Xcode project, so we're just going to do the iOS setup. So if you just click on setup here, and then this will actually install. This is actually the guide of how to install Fastlane onto your machine. So before we actually continue with this, there's just a few things that we need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to go into our Xcode project. Now I'm only going to be distributing this as an iPhone app, so I just want to turn off the iPad option. It's pretty straightforward. And also as well, if I go into my preferences and Xcode, so you just go to Xcode and then preferences. If you go to the location tab, just make sure that your command line tools is selected as well for the version of Xcode that you're using or whatever, as long as this isn't grayed out, because it needs to be selected. So that's cool. So the next thing we need to do is look at how to install this. So looking at the guide, there's two ways of installing this. The first way is using Ruby Gems. The second way is using Homebrew. Now, if you prefer using Homebrew, then you can use Homebrew, that's fine. I'm going to be using Ruby Gems, and there's this command here with Ruby Gems. So what we need to do is we need to actually go in. First of all, let's just go into our project within the terminal. So in order to do that, I'm just going to open up my terminal app that I use. Now, if you don't have a terminal app, just type in terminal, just search for the terminal app on your Mac. Alternatively, if you go into your launchpad here, you should see it there. I'm going to be using item. So let me just zoom in here to make that clear for you so you can see it. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to start the process of installing this. So if you just go to the documentations, they have this command here called sudo. So sudo gem install Fastlane, and then this -mv. Now you can try this to see if it works for you. With my current setup, this command doesn't work for me, so I have to use an alternative installation method. If you have the same issue, you can use this installation command that I'm actually going to use now. So just let me just copy this. So this command is the one that I use to install Fastlane onto my machine. So once you paste this into your terminal, hit enter, and then enter your password that you use to log into your Mac. So this is the password that you use to log into your machine. All right, cool. So as you can see, it's successfully installed. Now I'm just going to create a bit of space for myself here on the terminal so it's clear for you guys to see. So in order to do that, I'm just going to type in the word clear and then hit enter. And now that's cleared all the previous commands. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to actually go into our project of where we want to set up Fastlane and actually set it up with a few commands. So the first thing I want you to do is in the terminal, type cd and then space, and then find your project on your Mac in the Finder. There we go. Cool. I'm just going to clear that again. Cool. So now if you're someone who already knows terminal and how to do all this stuff, then it's cool. You can, obviously you don't need to do it like that, but if it's people who are brand new, they might not know how to do this. So now we're in our project folder. If we go back to the documentation, it actually says that in order to set up Fastlane, you need to execute this command called Fastlane init. So let's do that now. So I'm just going to run Fastlane. Cool. And as you can see, we get a nice message saying welcome to Fastlane. It's automatically created the Fastlane folder for us, which is pretty sweet. So now we basically have the option to create some actions for us automatically. So you can see here, Fastlane is actually smart enough and basically says, do you want to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Now, me personally, I could choose option 3, but I want to show you guys how to do this manually. So we're going to choose option 4. So what I want you to do is to type 4 in the terminal and then hit enter. and then just keep hitting enter just to get past these steps. And then cool, now Fastlane has finished its setup. So if we go into our project now and we look inside of it, you should now see a folder called Fastlane, and within the Fastlane you should have a app file and a Fastfile as well. So in the next chapter, what we're going to talk about is the Fastlane in a bit more detail and talk a bit more about some of the syntax and the terminology associated with Fastlane. So let's do that. Basically, Fastlane is built on top of a programming language called Ruby, and what this allows us to do is it basically allows us to execute commands in the terminal to automate some of the tasks that we can create in Fastlane. So what I need you to do is I basically need to open up the project where the Fastlane folder is. So if you look at the Fastlane folder, you'll see that we have a Fastlane file or Fastfile and an app file. Now we're not going to focus on the app file just yet. We're just going to focus on the Fastfile. Now what I want you to do is I want you to drag this into a text editor. Now if you don't have a text editor or you don't know what that is, you can just use the text edit app. So this looks like this. So text edit to edit this file, but I have Atom on my machine, so I'm going to be using Atom. So I'm just going to drag this into Atom and then it'll open it up for me. So I'm just going to close some of this and then click on Fastlane and just zoom in so you can see this a lot more clearer. So with the Fastlane file, it has its own kind of like syntax and the way you need to format kind of something. So we're going to break that down now. So the first thing I want you to basically realize is on line 16, as you can see here, we actually do have something called default platform iOS. And what this basically says is it basically means that this Fastfile is configured for an iOS project, which it is. But what you could do is you actually could add actions in here for an Android project as well if you want to share the same Fastlane file between, you know, two different projects. But we're just going to focus on iOS. So the next thing is platform, and you can see how we specify iOS as well. So notice how the syntax is platform and then there's a semicolon and then we say the keyword iOS and then do, and then it is wrapped around a end statement. So essentially this is no different to a function. So what this is basically saying is I can actually execute this command iOS in the terminal and basically get a list of all the actions within this platform. So let's do that now. So just to show you that, if we go into the terminal, I can actually type, in order to execute that, I need to type Fastlane and then I need to use a keyword iOS. So the reason why we have to use iOS is because if you go back to the text editor, you can see here that we defined iOS. So this Fastlane command is going to execute this command iOS. So let's do that now. And as you can see, it's giving me a summary and it's now asking me which lane do I want to execute. Now, if we go back to our text editor, you can see, if I just dismiss this, you can see how we actually have our lane, custom lane here and custom lane here. So let's say, for example, if I had multiple lanes, I could actually see a summary of them all here and then choose the one I wanted to choose to execute. So if I want to choose to execute custom lane, I just have to enter the number 1 and then hit enter. And then as you can see here, it basically executes that lane and gives me a summary as well. So let's go back to our file and let's go a bit deeper. So on the next line, on line 19, you can see that we have a description of what the lane does. So just like with any function, you want to provide your lanes with a description so it's clear as to what it is the lane does. And if we go down here, you'll see the keyword lane. So I've been saying lane about 50 billion times now. We're finally going to get to it. So lane is literally, like I said before, the specific action that you want to execute. So in this case, we have the keyword lane. Again, we have to use a semicolon and describe what it is that we want our lane to be. And then we have to use a keyword do and then end. So it's almost like this is a function wrapped within a function. So this syntax is exactly how it needs to be. If you don't do it like this, then it will fail. So just to show you that in action, if I was to basically just disable this and just take out this end, and then if I also do Fastlane custom underscore lane and hit enter, you'll see in a minute that it doesn't like it and it tells me there's a syntax error. So you need to be really careful with the syntax when you're building your lanes, and make sure that wherever you do a do, you always have a end. Unfortunately, I've not come across a linting tool yet that basically highlights these syntax errors. If you know a really good one, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and I'll definitely check it out for myself, because it can be a lifesaver. So now we have our lane, custom lane here, and we know the syntax. The next thing we need to do now is literally set up our distribution certificate. In this section, I'm actually going to assume that you've never put an app on the App Store and you don't have any certificates or profiles set up. If you do, then you can still carry on, but this is just if you're someone who's completely brand new. So what we need to do next is we basically need to set up a distribution certificate, because without this, we can't actually distribute our app onto the App Store. And essentially what a distribution certificate is it's basically like, think of it like a pass to basically say that, you know, you have this pass, you can go inside of this club. Now, if you don't have this distribution certificate, you will not be able to upload an app onto the App Store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically show you how to do that now, and where it lives in Apple Developer as well. So let's jump straight in. So the first thing to do is go into Apple Developer, like we did previously. And if you just click on account, you then also need to click on certificate identifiers and profiles. And then essentially what you need to do is go into certificates. Now, right now for me, I have a development certificate, but if I change the type to production, there are none. Now, you could create this certificate manually yourself, but why do that when we can let Fastlane do the work for us, innit? You know what I mean? So let's do that now. So what we need to do, first of all, is we need to go back into our terminal. So let's make sure we're in the project folder. Now, if you're not in the project folder, all you need to do again is just do cd and then get your project. So I'm just gonna get my project open here, and then literally just drag the project folder into the terminal, and then you will now be in a project folder. Now, just to create some space, I'm going to hit clear so it's clean from the top. And the first thing we need to do is we need to use an action from Fastlane called cert. And basically what cert does is it literally creates a certificate for us. Now, all you need to do in the terminals is type in Fastlane and then cert. And then once we hit this, it will basically start to execute the command for us. And then it will ask you to enter your Apple ID. I'm going to enter in mine now. Successfully logged me in. And now it's doing the magic. So as you can see there, it successfully generated the certificate for us and installed it onto our machine. And cool, that's pretty much it. It's done it for us now. We now have a distribution certificate set up for us. So if we go back to Apple Developer and we now just refresh this to show all the types, you'll now see that it's created a distribution certificate for us. So now we can start to distribute apps. So it's also interesting as well because we actually open up our project as well. So the folder where our project lives, I should say, and we just do open space and then a full stop. You'll see now that we actually have all these files available for us now. So let's break these down now in terms of what these files are that's generated for us. So essentially the cert sign-in request is essentially just the certificate, or not, I shouldn't say certificate, but basically it's a file that we use to sign our certificates with. So with this file, it basically generates a key off your machine, so you can create, you know, other distribution certificates and whatnot. Also as well, you can see how we have the cert file. So the cert file, which is the certificate file, and this is actually the certificate that you see in the keychain. And then on top of that, we have the P12. Now the P12 is essentially just the private key that is used to sign the certificate with. So without the P12, the certificate basically is not valid. So let's say, for example, if you work on a big team and you have multiple developers and whatnot, you would actually ideally only want to share with those developers the cert and the P12 file. They don't actually need the cert sign-in request, but you want to keep all three of these files safe. So in the future, when you do generate any other certificates, if you need to, you can use the cert sign-in request, so it's all tied to one machine. So that's what those three files are, and that's the purpose of what it is that they need to do. So I would highly recommend you commit them and put it in like storage in Git and make sure it's protected so no one can just access it, or put it in some sort of safe storage where you know no one can really access it. To send our app to the App Store, we need to follow a specific kind of flow in Fastlane. So what we basically need to do is we basically need to first of all execute our command. Then after we execute our command, we then need to export our app into an IPA file. And then once we export our app into an IPA file, we then need to send it to the App Store so you can distribute it and whatnot. So in order to do the first step, which is to distribute our app into an IPA file, we need to use a specific command in Fastlane called gym. So let's just see what this is now. So if we just go to the Fastlane documentation, if you click on available actions, you'll see a list of all the available actions that our Fastlane has to offer. As you can see, there's quite a few. So the one we're interested in for our purposes right now is the gym one. So if you just scroll down to building, you'll see an action called gym. And if you open up gym, it literally explains to you what it does. So gym builds and packages the iOS apps for you. So you don't need to worry about doing the whole organizer and then archive and then export and all that business. This will do the work for you in terms of exporting an IPA. So in order to use this, what we need to do is we basically need to use this action in our Fastfile. So let's do that now. So what I want you to do is to go back to your text editor where the Fastfile is, and I'm just going to create some space here at the bottom for you. And then what we basically need to do is create a new lane. So I'm just going to basically type out a new lane. So first of all, I'm going to say desk, and then I'm going to say this is going to be to export our app. And then we're going to create our lane, and this lane is going to be called export app. So let's do that now. So we're going to say lane, and then space, and then semicolon, and then we're going to call it export underscore app, and then do, and then we got to end it off with an end. So always type that out first when you're creating your lanes to have the template correct. And now we're going to use our action gym. So the first thing we need to do is we just need to type the keyword gym like so. And we're going to go back to the documentation, and we're just going to copy a few parameters that we actually need to use this action. So let's go back to our documentation in Fastlane, and if you just scroll down, you'll see that there's a table full of all the possible things that you can do. So it's also worth noting as well that there's actually an alias for this. So there's actually an alternative word you can use called build app, but we're just going to use gym. So the first one that we need is project. Now, if you're working with a CocoaPods project, you can use workspace. You just basically need to just use workspace like it's defined here, and then just specify your workspace name and then put the extension on the end of it. For our project that I'm working on now, it's not a workspace, it's an Xcode project, so I'm going to use project. So let's just use this keyword here. So I'm just going to copy this to save time. And then inside the parentheses, I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to basically put project in like so, and then put a semicolon like so. And then I'm going to put the, I forgot what they are. I'm going to put the quotation marks. My mind went there. And we're basically going to put the file name of our Xcode project here. Now, it's worth noting that because our Xcode project is relative to Fastlane in the path, I don't need to do anything crazy. I just need to basically take this, so copy and paste all of this and just literally just put it inside of here like so. So pretty straightforward. Now the next one that we want to use is scheme. So scheme is the target that we want to basically export. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy scheme and just put that in here for now, because there's still something else that we need to do. And then just put the semicolon and then just put the double quotes in. Cool. So what we need to do now is we need to open up our Xcode project. So I'm just going to go to my Finder, or I'm just going to open up my Xcode project here. And then what we then need to do is we need to go to the target that we want to basically export and find that scheme. So you can see I've only got one scheme here. So I'm going to go to edit scheme. And then what we need to do is we need to make sure that this is selected. So make sure that shared is ticked, because if it isn't ticked, then this gem function isn't actually going to work properly. So just make sure that it's not unticked like so. Make sure it's ticked and then hit close. And then that's that sorted. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this scheme into my file. So being a bit lazy, I don't want to type that out, so I'm just going to copy. I'm going to hit enter and then hit copy on here and then paste that in here. Next thing I want to do is I want to basically make sure that the project is clean before it exports. So in order to do that, all we need to do is just literally, if we go back to documentation, you'll see there's a property parameter here called clean. So we're just going to copy clean, and then we're going to paste that in here. And then we're just going to put the keyword true. So what this will do is it'll basically clean the project before it tries to basically export it. So I'm going to set that to true. So now the next thing that I need to do is, if we look at our Xcode project, now I'm not going to go into too much detail about provisioning profiles, but as you can see, it's actually set to automatic. Now by default, Fastlane assumes that you have a provisioning profile set here. Now, obviously we don't, we have it set to automatic. So what I need to do is I basically need to tell Fastlane to use automatic provisioning. In order to do that, we need to basically set the export arguments. So if you just go back to the documentation and just scroll down, you'll see an option here called export xc args. And this is the arguments that you want to use when you export and archive your project. So we're going to copy this. And I'm just going to paste this in here, like so. Now this next step is really important that you spell it the exact same way. So the flag that we want to use here for the export argument is to allow provisioning updates. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in here. Paste that in here. So what this basically means is it literally says you want to allow it to use automatic signing. So it's very important that you spell it the exact same way, even with the capital letters, because if you don't, it's possible that it might not work. So the next thing we need to do now is basically give our app a name that you can use. So in order to do that, there's a parameter in Fastlane called output name. And what we're basically going to say is we're going to basically give this a output name of release app. So if you just go into documentation and find where output name is, you can copy it or you can type it. So I'm just going to copy and paste it myself. And then I'm going to do that and then just put the double quotes. So what we're going to call our app is release app. So we're going to say release app. And it's really important that you end it with the extension .ipa, so it knows to export it as an IPA. So what's going to happen now is we're basically going to execute this command, export app, and we're going to basically see it in action. So let's do that now. So I'm just going to dismiss this so we can keep it on the screen here to the side. And there we go. I'll scroll, just create a bit more space so it's easier to see. And then again, if you're not in the project because you closed the terminal for whatever reason, you can easily go back into it. All you need to do is just literally just drag your folder into it. So I'm just going to do that now again. So where the folder is, just drag it, put CD before it, and then hit enter. I'm just going to hit clear to create some space. Now, in order for us to execute this command, we just basically need to type Fastlane and then the lane called export app. So let's do that now. So just zoom in one more time. So we're going to say Fastlane and then we're going to put space and then export underscore app to execute this. So let's do that now. So hit enter. and then this will start to execute the gym action that we wrote before. Okay, cool. So now that that's finished, you can see that we actually get a summary at the end. So basically it took Jim 28 seconds to do this action, and it actually successfully exported and compressed the project into a IPA file and a DSIM. So what we're going to do is we're going to see these files now. So we just type in your terminal, open, and then full stop again to open up the project that you're currently in. So as you can see now in the Finder, we actually have two new files now. So the first file we have is the IPA. Now this IPA is the actual app that we're going to be sending to the App Store with the next command that we'll be using. And this is the DSIM. So these DSIMs are basically the symbols that are used to basically collect things such as crash reports. So it's pretty important that you keep these two in the directory that they're in now, and we're basically going to use these in the next step where we actually send it to the App Store. So let's do that now. What we're going to need to do basically is we're going to need to use a command called deliver to, like it says, deliver it to the App Store. Now, before we use the deliver command, there's a few things that we need to do. So let's just do that first. So the first thing is you're going to sign in to your Apple ID on appleid.apple.com. And you're going to need to scroll down to security, and then you're going to need to click on generate passwords, and then you're going to need to generate a new password. So I'm going to enter Fastlane password here. Cool. And then you're going to hit create. And then what this is going to do now is it's going to basically create this app specific password for you to use. So I'm going to copy this app specific password for myself, and we're finally going to use and access the app file. So if you just go back into your editor and you just open up, it's a bit funny, just let me open up the project properly in Atom. So app file, all right, cool. So let's go to Fastlane and let's open this up in Atom. Cool. So now we've got this here. So what we basically need to do is you need to essentially set the app specific password so that it can automatically use this password to send it to AppStoreConnect. Now, if you don't do this step, what will actually happen is it will actually just fail and say you need to provide an app specific password. So let's do that now. So in order to do that, we need to basically use an environment variable. So the environment variable that we need to use is this. So let's just type in here env for environment variable, and then within the double quotes we need to put Fastlane underscore apple underscore application underscore specific password, like so, and make sure that it is all spelled like that in cap locks. And then all you need to do is enter, and then do some more quotes, and then put your password in here, and then save it. So now your app file's gonna basically pass this onto Fastlane when you want to distribute your app. So now we've done this step, we can actually start with the deliver command. So I want you to go to Fastfile, your Fastfile, and I just want you to, underneath your export app, create a new lane. So we're just going to type the keyword desk for description, and then I'm going to say to deliver our app, and then we're going to create a new lane called upload app. So lane upload underscore app, and then do, and then end. It's kind enough to automatically do it for me there. So in order to upload our app, we need to use a command called deliver. So let's go to the documentation for Fastlane and look at the available actions. So if I just type, I'm just going to search for on this page here, so deliver, and we're just going to open up this one here. Cool. So like deliver says, it delivers and uploads screenshots, metadata, and binaries to AppStoreConnect. Use deliver to submit your app for the review. So let's do that now. I'm just going to basically do this now. So if we just scroll down here, you can see it's pretty straightforward to use. So let's go into our Fastfile again, and let's just type the keyword deliver parentheses, and then within the parentheses let's hit enter. So let's start to fill this up now. So the first parameter that we need to use is the IPA. And if you remember, we created the output name here with the IPA. So all we need to do is just literally just copy this, and then we just want to put this in here. Cool, hit save. Now we want to skip a couple of things because we don't want it to automatically submit it. I still want to go through a few things. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to basically add a few parameters here. So let's just break down what we've just done. So we basically said we want to skip the screenshots, we wanted to skip the metadata, and we also wanted to skip the app version update. So all this is going to do now is just going to literally just send that app to AppStoreConnect so we can submit it, which is pretty cool. So the final thing that we need to add in is the force key. So I'm just going to add this in now. So force and then true. And essentially what this key is going to do is it's just going to basically send it, because normally Fastlane gives you a HTML screen where you can validate all the data before you send it to AppStoreConnect. In our case, we just want to send it just for the purpose of this tutorial. So I'm going to hit put force in there, and now we've basically filled out all the information that's necessary. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another lane. So we're going to say for the description, we're going to call it releases our app to the App Store. So we're going to create another lane, and this time we're going to call it release_app. And then what this is going to do is going to release our app onto the App Store. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use export app. So export app. So if you remember our flow from before, and then we're finally going to use upload app. Upload app. Okay, cool. And this is a good example of what I was talking about before, where I said you can basically mix and match different lanes, similar to how they're like functions. So let's see this in action now. So if I just close, well, not close, but minimize Atom, and then yeah, so let's just minimize Atom like so. And then if I just go back into my terminal where we are in our project, if I now basically just hit clear, so if I just use this action, so Fastlane release_app, we'll now see it do what it needs to do. So when you're doing this, you may be asked for your Apple ID. Now, if you don't want to be asked for your Apple ID, very simple thing to do is to just literally go into your app file, and at the top you'll see this option here called Apple ID. So just literally copy this and then just paste it here, and then replace this with your Apple ID. And then when you replace this with your Apple ID that you use to log into Apple Developer and AppStoreConnect and all that, you won't be asked this again. But just for now, I'm just going to enter my Apple ID to just carry it on. So I'm just going to say my Apple ID. And as you can see now, it's got the password from the app file, I should say, sorry. And you can now see it's starting to upload the app to AppStoreConnect. So we don't need to do anything. We can chill, watch some anime, get some donuts, you know what I mean? See what's popping on YouTube, and just wait for this to finish. All right, cool. So now it's finished, and as you can see, we get a summary in terms of how long it took for it to do it all. And now it's actually finished uploading this to AppStoreConnect. So if we just go onto our browser and we just go into our app in AppStoreConnect, if you just click on the test flight, you'll actually see that it's uploaded it now here, and it's actually available. So if you choose manage, and then because this app isn't using any encryption, so we can choose no. If your app is, then you have to click yes. But you can start basically testing this and distributing it through test flight and all that other good stuff. So this is really good. So what we've actually done is we've actually basically created a automation tool that allows us to easily send apps to the App Store by just using one command. Now the next chapters we're going to basically go through filling out the information on AppStoreConnect, and then we're going to basically get ready for the big reveal, which is pressing the submit button. It's also worth noting as well that if your app is actually quite large, it may still say processing on test flight. So just wait for it to finish processing and then it should be all good. In our case, ours is quite a small app, so it's pretty quick. Starting from the end of last year, 2020, and now more 2021, Apple is basically making us state what data we collect and what information is linked and isn't linked to a user. So basically, if you're building an app now, you have to state your app privacy, and this will appear on the App Store listing. So if I'm a user and I want to download the app, I can see what data it is you're collecting about me. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to fill out this form, because if you don't fill out this form, then you're actually not able to publish any apps onto the App Store. So let's do this now. So what I want you to do is I want you to sign into AppStoreConnect and then select your app. So I'm inside of Football Chance here. So I then want you to basically go onto the General tab here and then basically select App Privacy. So here, what we need to do is we need to click the Get Started to basically fill out the information. So let's hit Get Started. Now, if you're someone who has a SDK in your app, and you're collecting data, whether that's like Firebase or some other SDK, then you do have to, if you're using analytics, you do have to say yes. Now, if you select yes, you'll have to basically fill out what information it is you are collecting and, how that is linked to a user. Now, Football Chance doesn't have any of that in there. So all I need to do is just basically hit back. And then I just need to say, no, we don't collect data from this app, and then hit save. And then that's pretty much it. Now, when users view your app on the App Store, they will see this underneath on the product page, and they can decide whether they want to download your app or not. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually provide a privacy policy URL. So essentially what a privacy policy URL is the URL that loads up a document that explains how you handle, someone's data. So I've actually got a handy site here that I found called App Privacy Policy Generator. And if you fill out all the information here, it will actually generate it and host it for you for free. So it's really good. I'll put a link to this in the description box. So after we finish doing this, because I've already got a URL, all we need to do is just basically hit edit, and then I'm just going to copy the URL and then just put that here. Cool. And then I'm just going to hit save, and then all we need to do now is literally just hit publish. And that's pretty much it. So now when we upload our app to the app stores, this data will be shown in its own section for users to decide whether they want to download your app. So now the next bit we're going to talk about is screenshots. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the screenshots for the app. So for this, all we need to basically do is literally go onto our app submission here, so where it says prepare for submission, so the version that you created, and you'll see this section at the top here which basically says you need to drag up to 3 views and 10 screenshots here. So what this is where it shows the screenshots that you want to show off your app. So your screenshots basically show the user what is possible and how it can help them reach their goals. Now you can actually put videos in as well, and it's probably good to put in videos, but I would research and look at other app videos and see what people do. I know a lot of people who do videos essentially show off the key features of the app because you don't want to have a massive video that's really long. But essentially here, because we've only built an iPhone app, we're only going to drag in the iPhone screenshots. Now, if you don't know the sizes to design this for, it's pretty straightforward. All you need to do is if you just go on the question mark icon, if you click on learn more, and then when you click on learn more, there's actually a link to here. the screenshot specifications, which I'll also put in the description box below. And what this basically does is it literally shows you the screenshots for all the different phone sizes that you can support. So you can upload screenshots for all of these devices if you want to. Now, for us in our case, we're just going to upload screenshots for the iPhone 5.5 and the 6.5 display, which is the minimum requirement. And it's also worth noting that you can actually upload screenshots as well in different languages, but we're just going to do it in English. So let's do this now. So on the side of my computer here, I already have some screenshots. So I'm just going to dig them out. So the first one we're going to drag in is the notch screenshot. So I'm just going to drag this here. Cool. And as you can see now, it's processing and uploading a screenshot here. Now, if you have multiple screenshots, you could actually drag them to reorder them in whatever order you prefer. And then all I'm going to do is select on this 5.5, and then I'm going to drag in like so. Cool. And now our screenshots have been uploaded successfully, so we don't really need to do anything else. Like I said previously, if you have screenshots in different languages, or if you have more than one screenshot or video, this is the place of where you can drag it. And if you're building an app that's universal on iPhone and iPad, then this is also where you want to drag it as well. So it's also worth noting as well that Apple has rules and guidelines as well in terms of screenshots. So they like seeing the app that you built in an iPhone, and they wouldn't really want to see it in an Android device. Like that can actually get your app rejected. So I would check out the guidelines from the specification link and make sure that your screenshots follow those guidelines, and also the sizes as well. So in the next bit, we're actually going to talk about the rest of the information that we need to fill out to submit our app, and we'll do that now. So let's jump into that. Cool. So we've now basically filled out our app privacy, and we've now uploaded our screenshots for our app for the submission process. So the next thing we need to do is actually fill out the remaining information for our app. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go through each section that you need to fill out the information for, and the purpose of what it is and where it would appear on the App Store. So let's jump into that right now. So we're on our app submission here. So let's start from the top. So let's start with filling out the information here for prepare for submission. So we've already done our screenshots. The next thing you'll see is promotional text. So this is if you want to promote any sort of like new features or deals or anything like that. But obviously it's the first version of the app, and so there's not any promo text that we need. It's also worth noting as well that this is something that's displayed under the description of the app. Now we have keywords here, which oh, by the way, this is optional. You don't have to fill this out. Now we have keywords which help the discoverability of the app in terms of App Store optimization. So obviously you want to make sure that the keywords that you're trying to rank for are relevant for your app. So I'm just gonna put football in here for now, because this is just obviously a dummy tutorial. For your purpose, definitely check out what keywords you need. So the next thing is the support URL and the marketing URL. So support URL is the URL users can find and contact you if they need any support and whatnot. And for this, I'm just going to use my Twitter. People can come and contact me there. So I'm just going to copy my Twitter URL, and I'm just going to put this here. Let's remove the language on the end of it. So description is the description of your app, and this is what's shown on the App Store underneath the title and your screenshots in terms of like the description of your app. So I'm just going to say play your favorite chants. Now, I actually don't have an app clip or any of these, so we're going to skip these. But the main one that we do want to look at is the build. So you'll actually see here now the build that we actually uploaded via Fastlane. So if I select the button here to select a build, alternatively I could hit the plus button as well. They both do the same thing. And this is the build that we uploaded. So it was build number 1 version 1.0. So let's select that one and hit done. And then we'll hit save. And I don't know if you realize, but now the app icon's been picked up. Now it's not done it here. It just needs some time to process. When we refresh the page, that will update. So this is the app version here. So this is obviously the first version of the app. So, you know, it's version 1. But obviously, if your version is different, then you can change it. Realistically, you want your version here to match the version of the build that you selected. So to keep it consistent, copyright is the copyright that your app's going to be under. Cool. And then what we need to do now here is we need to basically select the age rating for our app. Now, obviously, we don't have anything crazy, but you can see on the list here, you have all the things to basically, you know, list in terms of what your app does or has. Now, our app doesn't have any of these, so I'm just going to select none on all of them. Now, obviously, if your app does include this stuff, then definitely make sure you check it, because if you don't, then you know, you could basically get it removed off the App Store. So I'm going to say done. Okay, cool. Now we have Game Center. This is if you've got a game and you want to incorporate the game, you know, center feature that comes with iPhones in terms of like high scores and adding players and all that business. Now we have this here with the sign in required. So if someone needs to sign into your app in order to test it, this is where you'll put in any of the information. And I'd highly recommend you put notes as well and a video to show that the app is working. Because sometimes Apple can test apps and it might be in a environment that is conflicting with your configuration. So definitely test accounts before you submit your app if someone needs to sign in to make sure that they can access it. Because if they can't, they'll just reject it. And also as well, you want to put the contact information here in terms of if someone needs to get in contact with you as well. Now, here you can choose attachments. So like I said before, you can show a video of a feature or something that someone may need to do in order to access your app or just to help them out. And on version release, I like to set this to manual so I can control when the build goes out. But if you don't really care, you just want it to go out into the wild, then you can choose automatic, or you could even choose a specific date and time as to when you want it to launch onto the App Store. Now I've filled all this out, so I'm going to hit save. Okay, cool. Now we're going to look at the other information. So I'm going to go to app information. Now, name is the name that appears on the App Store when someone searches for your app. Subtitle is the subtitle that is shown below it. So I'm just going to say here, play. Oh, don't know why it's gone there. So I'm just going to say play your chance as a subtitle. Cool. And you can see here we have all the bundle identifier, the SKU, and all the other information. So content rights, I should say, sorry, is does it contain or show any third-party content? So now our app Football Chance does technically show teams in the Premier League. And now, obviously, I'm not the owner of Arsenal Football Club, so technically here I would have to basically say yes, it does, and I have the rights because I'm not really making money off it, so it should be fine. But obviously, make sure you check that with someone to make sure that you've definitely got the right information. And then again, you can choose a category. So the category I'm going to choose for this is entertainment, and then you can choose a subcategory. So the subcategory I'm going to choose is sports, and I'm just going to hit save. And then that's saved that. Now we can go to pricing and availability. Now this is where if you want to basically sell your app on and choose the countries that people can download it from, this is where you set it up. So now obviously I'm not going to charge people for this app. So you can see all the tiers here. It goes all the way down. I mean, geez, you can actually charge someone $1,000 for your app if you want to. That's madness. But so for me, I'm just going to choose free, because I'm not going to make you guys pay for this. So you can also make it available for pre-order. So what this means is basically someone can basically buy your app similar to like pre-ordering a game, and once it becomes available, then it will automatically install it onto a device. Now obviously this is going to be free, so there's no point doing that. Availability, you can choose the availability of it. So if you go to edit, you can choose the countries. You see all the countries here you can make it available from, or remove it from. You can also remove it from sale, which basically means to remove it from the App Store completely so it doesn't exist anymore. Also as well, you can check this box to say if it's available for the new Apple Silicon Macs. So by this, it's the whole handoff where if you basically build an app with the new, development kit that Apple provides, will it be able to be ported, and can you just run it on that M1 machine? Now obviously this app doesn't really have that, so we'll just leave it ticked though, because it's just for the purpose of this tutorial. But if you don't want people to run this on a Silicon Mac, then I would untick this. And then you can choose the distribution methods in terms of how you want it to be distributed. Now obviously I'm not building a custom app where it's only going to be distributed to a small set of users. It's just going to be public, so I'm just going to choose public. And you can actually offer a discount for anyone on the Apple School Manager. So I'm just going to hit save. Now if you jump into this chapter straight away, then we've already spoken about the app privacy, so you might want to go back to that chapter, so I'm going to skip over that. So ratings and reviews. Now I don't have any ratings or reviews, so I'm not actually going to say anything, but this is where you would see people leaving reviews for your app, and you can respond to them and do all that good stuff. And version history is where you see the version history of all the builds that you've uploaded and tried to submit and whatnot. And in-app purchases, like it says, it's where you manage your in-app purchases, create them, update them, and do all that stuff. But so before we submit the app, let's make sure that the description is filled out, the support URL is filled out. Now for my app, because you don't need to sign into it, I'm actually going to uncheck this. But if you do need to sign in, then you want to make sure this is selected and you fill this out, and the contact information has been filled out as well. So let's save this now after that's all been done, and now let's submit this for review. And cool, you can see here the app's now been submitted for review, and the app's been prepared for an app review. So we've now submitted our first app, and we've managed to automate sending it to the App Store using Fastlane. Awesome. So now we've automated our flow, and we can now send our app to the App Store just by using one command in the terminal. Hopefully you've learned a lot about the terminal, and you've learned how powerful Fastlane can really be. Now this is technically part one of another video that we'll do, where I'll actually show you how to upload an app and handle app version updating. So how to bump up a build to like version 1.1 and all of the business. So as usual, if you enjoyed this video, give the video a thumbs up. As always as well, comment with any feedback. I appreciate all the comments and you guys interacting with me. Also as well, subscribe to help the channel grow. And that's everything for today's video. Deuces.